Look at yourself with brutal honesty for a moment. Not the version you present to others, but the one that stares back at you when the room is quiet and there is no one left to impress. How much of your life has been spent trying to look successful instead of becoming successful? How many hours have you wasted arranging appearances, rehearsing phrases that sound important, worrying about what others might think of your clothes, your position, your possessions, while your actual power to produce, to lead, to create value remains weak and undeveloped? You crave the respect that follows real achievement, but instead of paying the price, you have been renting the costume. That must end. Life is not fooled by appearances, and neither is the law of cause and effect. You can wear the finest suit, sit in a handsome office, and speak with practiced confidence, but if you have not developed the habits, the discipline, and the value that genuine success demands, circumstances will strip you sooner or later. The world may applaud you for a season on the strength of image, but when pressure comes, and it always comes, the man behind the image will be weighed. If he is light, he will be exposed. You have seen this happen to others. Do not imagine you are exempt. The habit of looking successful begins innocently. As a boy or young man, you saw those who carried influence. They walked with calm assurance, spoke with authority, commanded attention. You wanted that feeling. Somewhere along the way, you noticed that people responded to surface signs, fine clothing, confident talk, impressive surroundings, and you learned that you could borrow the feeling of importance by imitating those signs. It worked just enough to deceive you. People treated you differently. You felt for a time as though you had stepped into another class of life. But there was a fatal flaw. You built from the outside in. You put paint on a wall that had no bricks behind it. There is a great difference between the man who appears secure and the man who is secure. The one relies on constant performance. He must keep up the show, fearful that any glimpse behind the curtain will reveal the truth. The other rests on solid ground. His confidence does not come from what he wears or where he sits. It comes from what he knows he can do, what he has proven to himself in solitude, in hard labor, in discipline no one applauded. One lives in anxiety, the other lives in quiet power. You must decide which one you will be. Ask yourself directly, if every symbol of success were taken from you tomorrow, the clothing, the position, the outward respect, what would remain? Could you, with only your mind, your skills, your habits, and your character, begin again and climb once more? Or would you be exposed as a man who has spent more time polishing his image than sharpening his tools? If that question makes you uneasy, do not run from it. Let it trouble you. Uneasiness that leads to honest self-examination is more valuable than comfort built on illusion. You must understand that the instinct to look successful is not entirely evil, it is simply misdirected. It springs from a deep desire to be more, to rise, to matter. That desire is noble. But when it is corrupted by impatience and vanity, it leads you to decorate yourself like a shop window while the storeroom behind it stands half empty. You want the rewards before you have laid the foundation. You want the honors before you have rendered the service. You want the respect owed to mastery while avoiding the years of obscurity in which mastery is built. Nature will not cooperate with such demands. She insists that every harvest be preceded by planting, cultivation, and time. Stop deceiving yourself with convenient half-truths. You tell yourself, if I look the part, opportunities will come. There is some truth in that appearance can open a door. But what happens after the door opens? When you are seated at the table and the talk turns to decisions, strategy, and responsibility, your clothes will be silent. Your manner will not produce understanding where none exists. You will be judged by the clarity of your thought, the strength of your character, the quality of your work. If those are hollow, the door that appearance opened will close more quickly than it opened. and the very image that gained you entrance will now earn you contempt. Let me speak plainly. Are you more interested in being seen as a man of success or in becoming one? The first is easy. You can borrow money to decorate your exterior, speak loudly in public places, surround yourself with symbols that suggest prosperity. The second is harder. It requires you to go where no applause is heard, to labor when no eyes are watching, to do without certain pleasures while you build capacity, to endure misunderstanding while your roots grow. But only the second is safe. A borrowed image can be taken from you in a day. Real ability, once acquired, cannot be repossessed by anyone but yourself. You must shift your attention from stage to workshop. The stage is where you display what you have already become. The workshop is where you become it. You have spent too many hours on the stage worrying about how you appear, rehearsing clever speeches about what you intend to do. Now you must retreat into the workshop of your own mind and habits. Shut the door. Take inventory. Ask without flinching, what can I actually do that is of real value to others? Not what you hope to do someday, not what you boast about in company, but what you can sit down and perform today with competence and reliability. If the list is short, do not despair. Many great lives began with a small inventory. Despair only if you refuse to lengthen the list. The first step in becoming successful is to admit that your present self is unfinished. Pride resists this. Pride would rather maintain the illusion of completeness than confess the need for growth. But that illusion is exactly what chains you. As long as you cling to it, you cannot learn. As long as you pretend you already are what you want the world to believe, you will avoid the very experiences that could make you into that man. The man who truly becomes successful is not afraid to be a beginner in private, even while others expect him to be accomplished. He is willing to be incompetent at first, to be clumsy at new tasks, to study where others showing off refuse to admit ignorance. Your days, as they are now organized, reveal whether you are trying to look successful or to become successful. The man who tries to look successful spends his free hours thinking how to impress. He lingers where he can be seen, speaks where he can be heard, seeks company that flatters him. The man who is becoming successful uses his free hours to build strength. He reads, studies, practices, plans. He withdraws from needless company and takes counsel instead with great minds through their writings, with his own conscience through quiet reflection, with his goals through deliberate planning. One trades time for image, the other trades time for substance. You might object, but appearance matters in this world. People judge by what they see. That is true. And I do not suggest you neglect basic order in your dress or surroundings. Present yourself clean, orderly, and with dignity. But let your main labor be on what your appearance cannot buy. Let your reputation rest not on what hangs in your closet, but on what you have proven you can do. If your name, when spoken, calls to mind reliability, competence, honesty, and calm under pressure, doors will open for you in ways no costume could produce. Men of substance recognize one another through results, not decoration. Another lie you must reject is the belief that if you confess your present weakness, you will lose the respect of others. In truth, you lose more respect by pretending strength you do not possess. The man who quietly acknowledges his need to grow and then sets himself to the work is admired by those who matter. The man who hides behind show is feared by none and trusted by few. He may attract followers who love gossip and spectacle, but serious minds will keep their distance. Ask yourself which group you want to move among. To stop trying to look successful and start becoming it, you must change what success means to you. At present, success in your mind may still be bound up with the admiration of others, how many praise you, how often you are noticed, how many appear to envy you. This definition will ruin you if you keep it. Replace it with a different standard. Success is the steady expansion of my capacity to create value and the disciplined use of that capacity in service to a clear purpose. If that sounds severe, understand that it is also liberating. It puts your fate back in your own hands. You may not control who praises you, but you can control whether you grow and whether you serve. Begin asking new questions. Instead of, how can I make them think well of me? Ask, how can I become more useful? Instead of, what can I buy to look the part? Ask, what can I learn to perform better? Instead of, how can I appear confident? Ask, how can I strengthen my mind so that confidence arises naturally? These questions will turn your gaze inward in the right way, not toward endless self-criticism, but toward constructive self-building. Every day you answer them with action, you step further away from the shallow life of appearance and closer to the solid ground of real achievement. There is a reason so many who chase image end in quiet despair. The burden of maintaining a mask grows heavier with time. You must always be watching, always comparing, always adjusting to the expectations of others. Any moment of unmasking becomes a threat. In contrast, the man who is more concerned with becoming than appearing grows lighter as he advances. The more he develops real skill, the less he needs to advertise it. The more he deepens his character, the less he fears exposure. His public self and private self move closer together, and with that alignment comes peace. You are not being asked to abandon all desire for advancement. On the contrary, you are being asked to inflame that desire and aim it correctly. Want wealth, but want the ability to earn and keep it more. Want respect, but want the character that deserves it more. Want influence, but want the wisdom to use it justly more. When you order your desires in this way, you no longer chase reflections. You chase the source. And the source of all those outward rewards is who you become. Look again at your present life. Are you willing to continue as you are until your last day? Are you content to be known as the man who always seemed he was on the verge of something great but never quite arrived? Or will you accept the discomfort of stripping away pretense and beginning the work of construction in earnest? That decision is not made in public. It is made now in the conversation you are having with yourself. You can walk away from these words and return to your old game, or you can let them pierce you and resolve that your days of acting are finished. From this point, everything depends on whether you will shift your effort from display to development. Imagine yourself a year from now having made that shift. Your clothing may be no more impressive, your surroundings may still be modest, but beneath the surface something substantial will have formed. You will carry knowledge you did not have, discipline you did not practice, confidence that does not depend on others' approval. You will speak less about what you intend to do and more about what you have done. You will feel less hunger for applause and more hunger for mastery. The path from looking successful to becoming successful is not mysterious. It is simply difficult, and that is why so few walk it. It begins with a new honesty about your motives, continues with a new standard for your days, and is sustained by a new loyalty to growth over display. Each time you turn away from the temptation to impress and choose instead to improve, you take another step on that path. Each time you invest an hour in strengthening your mind, your craft, or your character instead of polishing your image, you lay another stone in a foundation that no storm can easily wash away. You have worn the costume long enough. It is time to tailor the man. You must now turn from general agreement to exact practice. It is easy to nod your head when someone says, substance matters more than image. It is much harder to live as if that were true. The proof that you have abandoned the life of pretending will not be found in your opinions, it will be found in your schedule. A man's calendar is a confession. It reveals what he truly worships. If your days are filled with efforts to be seen, and almost empty of efforts to become, then your true God is appearance, no matter what you claim. If, on the other hand, your days are increasingly filled with deliberate work on yourself and your craft, and you care less and less about being observed while you do it, then you are beginning to walk the path of real success. Start with a ruthless inventory of how you spend your time. Do not guess. Take several days and write down from morning until night what you actually do with your hours. You will be tempted to adjust the record to flatter yourself. Resist that temptation. This exercise is not for others, it is for you. At the end of those days, look at the pages and ask, how much of this was aimed at building permanent value in me? How much was aimed at impressing others or avoiding discomfort? You may discover that much of your life has been lived as a kind of performance, talking about plans instead of making them real, seeking company that distracts from your lack of progress, arranging your surroundings to give the illusion of prosperity, while your mind remains underdeveloped. Let that realization cut. A wound of truth is better than the comfort of self-deception. Once you have seen the pattern, you must decide which activities to keep, which to reduce, and which to abandon entirely. Any habit that exists only to display an image must be suspected. The evening spent in places chosen solely because you might be noticed. The money spent on things you do not need, bought only to suggest that you have arrived. The hours wasted in idle talk about other people's lives and fortunes while your own lies unattended. These are not small indulgences. They are thieves. They steal the very energy you claim to lack when it is time to study, to work, to think. The man who is becoming successful does not pride himself on how much empty entertainment he can afford. He prides himself on how much of his strength he has captured and put to work. You may protest, but I must live a little. I cannot work every moment. That is true. You are not a machine. But look carefully at what you call living. Is it genuine rest that renews your power, or is it escape that dulls your hunger? There is a great difference between a walk that clears your mind and an evening of dullness that clouds it. There is a difference between conversation that sharpens your thinking and talk that numbs it. The man who is becoming successful chooses his recreations with almost as much care as his labors, because he understands that both shape him. He does not ask, does this amuse me, so much as, does this leave me stronger or weaker for tomorrow? After you have cleared some of the weeds from your days, you must plant something better in their place. Becoming successful is not merely the absence of pretense. It is the presence of power. Where will your power come from? From what you repeatedly put into your mind and force your hands to do? You must choose a field, whether trade, art, management, invention, or some other service, and resolve to become unmistakably competent in it. Not interested, not familiar, but competent in a way that others can rely upon. Then, you must organize your days around that resolve. This means setting hours for deliberate practice and keeping them sacred. You sit down to work on your craft when you said you would, not when you feel inspired. Inspiration may visit you, and when it does, be grateful. But you do not wait for it. You begin whether you feel a fire or not. As you work, you demand more from yourself than yesterday. You examine your efforts, looking for small improvements. You study those who have excelled in your field, not to copy their manner, but to understand the principles behind their success. You take notes, test ideas, and apply what you learn. You treat your development as seriously as a military campaign. At first, this will feel unnatural. Your old self will complain. It will whisper that you are being too hard on yourself, that others are enjoying themselves while you labor, that perhaps you are not the type to make such sacrifices. Answer that voice calmly. Others may spend their time as they wish. I am building a life, not a costume. Then return to your work. Each time you do this, you loosen the grip of vanity and tighten your bond with purpose. In time, the very actions that once felt forced will become part of your nature. The man who once could not bring himself to concentrate for an hour will find himself eager for the quiet, focused struggle in which he grows. As your skill increases, your understanding of value will deepen. You will begin to see how much preparation lies behind every genuine achievement. The music that sounds effortless, the business that seems to operate smoothly, the leader whose decisions appear simple, all hide years of unseen labor. Knowing this will cure you of envy. You will no longer look at a man of accomplishment and say, he is lucky. You will say, he has paid his price. Now I must pay mine. That shift guards you against the poisonous idea that there is some secret shortcut available to others that is withheld from you. Another change will come in the way you speak. When you lived for appearance, you were quick to talk about your intentions. You announced projects loudly, hoping that the sound of your ambitions would earn you respect. Often you described plans far beyond what you were prepared to execute, simply to sound impressive. Then, when the plans failed to become reality, your words lost weight. People may have continued to smile, but inwardly they learned not to take you seriously. You harmed yourself more than you knew. Now, you will reverse this habit. You will become slower to promise and quicker to perform. When an idea arises, you will not rush to advertise it. You will test it in silence. You will take the first steps quietly, proving the concept to yourself before you present it to others. Your words will begin to lag behind your actions instead of racing ahead of them. Over time, this breeds a new respect. Men will learn that when you speak of a plan, it is already underway. When you predict an outcome, it is because you have laid the groundwork. Your conversation will carry a different weight, not because you have learned clever phrases, but because your life stands behind your sentences. You must also change the way you handle praise. When you lived for appearance, you drank praise like a thirsty man drinks water. A few kind words could satisfy you for days, even if they were based on illusion. In fact, you often sought praise as a substitute for progress. If someone admired your style, your talk, or your image, you took that as proof that you were on the right path. Meanwhile, the actual state of your affairs remained weak. The praise had become a drug, pleasant but deadly to real growth. From now on, you will treat praise differently. You will accept genuine appreciation with courtesy, but you will not feed on it. You will measure yourself not by what others say, but by the questions you ask in solitude. Did I keep my word today? Did I become more capable? Did I deliver real value? If the answers are yes, you may allow yourself quiet satisfaction even if no one noticed. If the answers are no, you will feel dissatisfaction even if the crowd applauded you. This inner standard is the only one you can trust in the long run. The world is fickle. It will cheer you one year and forget you the next. But if you build a life on honest daily judgments of your own performance, you will neither be inflated by their applause nor destroyed by their silence. You will also begin to reinterpret failure. When your goal was to look successful, any misstep felt like disaster. A lost sale, a rejected proposal, a visible mistake, these threatened your image. You rushed to hide them, blame others, or quickly paint over the damage. You were acting to protect a mask, not to improve a man. Now, you must treat failure as a teacher instead of an enemy. When something goes wrong, you ask, what does this reveal about my current level of skill, my judgment, my preparation? You examine your own part first. Then you make changes. You adjust your methods, your habits, your assumptions. In this way, each failure becomes a stepping stone rather than a stone tied to your neck. This new relationship with failure will change the risks you are willing to take. The man who lives by image avoids situations where he might be seen to fall short. He stays within the narrow strip of activity, where he can maintain his reputation. As a result, he never stretches far enough to discover what he could truly do. The man who lives to become successful dares more. He takes on tasks that challenge him, enters rooms where he is not yet the most knowledgeable, attempts projects that may fail. He does this not out of recklessness, but out of a desire to grow. He knows that if he never risks looking inadequate, he will remain inadequate. As your focus shifts from appearance to becoming, your relationships will inevitably change. Some of those who once enjoyed your company will feel disturbed by your seriousness. They preferred the version of you who was eager to impress, who joined in idle boasting, who helped them pretend as well. Your refusal to keep playing that game will confront them. Do not be surprised if they accuse you of arrogance or coldness. In truth, you are simply redirecting your life towards substance. You do not need to fight them. Bless them if you can, but do not allow them to pull you back into the circus of pretense. At the same time, you will begin to attract different kinds of people. Those who value real work over shallow display will notice your change. They will see it in the way you use your time, in the steadiness of your efforts, in the humility with which you learn. These men and women may not flatter you, but they will respect you. Their counsel will be more valuable than the applause of 100 flatterers. As you move among them, you will find your own standards rising. It is difficult to remain a pretender in a circle of builders. Their example will either elevate you or drive you away. Another powerful shift will occur in how you view your past. When you live for image, you often use your past as a stage. You told stories that displayed you in the best possible light. You highlighted those moments that made you look bold, clever, or heroic, and you quietly buried the rest. Now, you will begin to examine your past not as a collection of stories to impress others, but as a record to instruct yourself. You will look at the times you chose appearance over growth and name them honestly. Not to shame yourself endlessly, but to learn the pattern. You will also remember the rare occasions when you did choose substance, when you worked quietly and were rewarded inwardly even if no one else knew. These will serve as proof that you are capable of living this new way. You may ask, how long will it take before this inner work shows on the outside? That is the question of a man still half in love with appearance. The proper question is, how far can I go if I do not stop? But there is comfort for you. The world is not blind. Genuine growth cannot remain hidden forever. As you become more skillful, more reliable, more stable, people will notice. Not all at once, and not always with fanfare, but they will. You will find that the very things you once tried to fake begin to appear naturally. Increased income, greater responsibility, broader influence. The difference is that you will now be able to bear them without fear, because they rest on a solid base. The man who has labored to become successful does not live in dread of being exposed. He knows that if someone were to examine his life, they would find years of effort. They might see mistakes, certainly, but they would also see correction, persistence, and growth. He goes to sleep with fewer secrets, fewer lies, fewer gaps between how he appears and who he is. That peace is worth more than any ornament you could buy. It cannot be purchased in any shop. It must be earned one honest day at a time. So you stand at a crossroad. One path leads further into the world of display. You can walk it, if you wish. You can keep polishing the mask, chasing symbols, living for the approval of those who are themselves pretending. The other path leads into the workshop of your own development. It promises no quick applause, but it does promise that if you stay at your bench long enough, you will emerge as a man whose presence rests on undeniable fact. When such a man finally looks successful, it is not because he has arranged the appearance, it is because success has grown up from within him and cannot help but show. You have begun to strip away the ornaments. You have stepped, at least in thought, off the shallow stage and into the workshop where real success is forged. Now you must understand what exactly you are building there. For it is not enough to simply work hard. Many men labor tirelessly and remain poor in both wallet and spirit. What separates the man who becomes successful from the man who merely stays busy is this. He directs his effort toward creating value that the world cannot easily ignore, and he binds that effort to unshakable character. Without value, you have nothing to offer. Without character, you have nothing that lasts. Let us speak first of value. You have been taught, perhaps without words, to chase positions, titles, and incomes. You have watched others secure advancements and thought, if only I could sit where they sit, wear what they wear, earn what they earn, I would be successful. That thinking reverses the order of life. Positions, titles, and incomes are not foundations, they are results. They are shadows cast by something more substantial. The ability to solve important problems, to carry responsibility, to make things better wherever you are placed. When you live to look successful, you chase shadows. When you live to become successful, you cultivate substance until the shadows lengthen by themselves. Ask yourself, without evasion, in what specific ways does my presence increase the value of any place I enter? If you walk into a place of work, are you simply another body filling a seat, or do you bring insight, reliability, and initiative? When you join a group, do you raise the level of thought, or do you merely contribute to noise? When you touch a task, does it tend to end in confusion, delay, and excuse, or in completion, clarity, and improvement? These are severe questions, but they are the only ones that matter if you aim to build real success. Markets, employers, partners, and even chance itself eventually move toward those who consistently increase value. You may be tempted to answer, I would bring more value if I were given more responsibility, a better position, a larger opportunity. This is another deception. You do not wait for larger responsibility to appear before you prove yourself. You prove yourself where you are until larger responsibility has no choice but to seek you out. If you are careless with a small account, you will be reckless with a large one. If you are disorganized in minor tasks, you will be dangerous in major ones. Life is not unjust when it withholds advancement from such a man. It is merciful. The way you handle what is in your hands today is a prophecy of what you would do with more. Therefore, begin at once with what lies closest to you. Take the work you now do, however humble it may appear, and examine it. Ask, how can I perform this with a precision and a thoroughness that sets me apart? How can I anticipate needs instead of merely responding to orders? How can I reduce errors, shorten delays, and raise the standard? Then do it. Do not announce that you are now a man of excellence. Let the improved results speak for you. Let your superior accuracy, your punctuality, your steady demeanor under pressure, your willingness to shoulder difficult tasks mark you. Before long, those around you will feel your presence as a stabilizing force. They may not compliment you at first, but they will depend on you. Dependence is the first form of recognition that matters. As you raise the value of your work, do not neglect the value of your mind. Many men hope to be paid more while feeding their minds crumbs. They treat study as something they left behind in school, as if life itself were not the sternest teacher of all. If you are not reading, thinking, and expanding your understanding in some direction every week, you are choosing stagnation. The man who becomes successful commits himself to lifelong learning. He studies not to impress others with quotations, but to discover principles that he can apply to his affairs. He reads books of substance, listens to those with proven experience, and then tests what he has learned in action. Do not say, "I have no time to study." That is a confession that you have no control over your own days. There are always slivers of time that can be captured. Early in the morning, before others demand your attention, in pauses between obligations, in the evening surrendered by most men to idleness, even half an hour taken daily and used well will over years separate you from the multitudes who feed only on gossip and amusement. Imagine the difference between two men 10 years from now. One has given himself to daily study and application, the other has not. Their outer circumstances may seem similar for a while, but eventually the gap in understanding will become a gap in opportunity. As your knowledge and skill grow, a subtle danger appears: pride. When you live for image alone, your pride was shallow but loud. You wanted to be admired for nothing. Now, as you begin to acquire genuine ability, pride may deepen. You may start to look down on those who have not yet walked the path you have chosen. You may secretly congratulate yourself on your seriousness, your discipline, your superior mind. This is a poison that must be expelled at once. Pride of this kind will make you rigid, blind to further learning, and unbearable to those around you whose cooperation you need. Remember always that you too once drifted. You too once wasted time and pretended to be more than you were. If mercy had not allowed you to see your error, you would still be there. The proper attitude is not contempt for others, but gratitude for your own awakening, and a quiet desire to help those who show signs of wanting to awaken as well. True greatness does not sneer, it serves. The most successful men do not spend their time boasting about their achievements. They are too busy working, learning, and lifting others as they climb. Now we must speak about character, for without it, all this talk of value is dangerous. In the hands of a man with weak character, great ability becomes a weapon against others and eventually against himself. You have seen men of talent undone by their own lack of integrity. They climb quickly using charm, intelligence, and hard work, and then fall even more quickly when dishonesty, selfishness, or arrogance brings their structure crashing down. The world is littered with such examples. If you build only skill and ignore character, you are planting a tree with rotten roots. It may grow tall, but the first storm will snap it. Character is not a mystical thing. It is the result of repeated choices. Honesty is formed each time you tell the truth, when a lie would be easier. Discipline is formed each time you keep a promise made to yourself or others, even when no one is watching. Reliability is formed each time you complete what you said you would do, on time and to the standard agreed upon. Courage is formed each time you act according to your principles despite fear, not in its absence. If your ambition for success does not include the ambition to strengthen these qualities, it will ultimately destroy you. You may think, but many succeed without strong character. It only appears that way for a time. Without sound character, success is either brief, hollow, or both. A man may amass wealth through manipulation, but he will always live in fear of discovery, surrounded by mistrust. A man may gain fame through spectacle, but when he is alone, he will remain small to himself. The test is not how high a man rises, but whether he can remain standing when pressure, temptation, and time bear down upon him. That is where character is revealed. And it is precisely there that the man who has spent his years polishing image fails, while a man who has built himself in truth endures. Examine your own character without flattery. Do you keep your word, or do you toss it about lightly? Do you do your full duty when no one is checking, or only just enough to avoid rebuke? Do you speak about others in their absence as you would in their presence? Or do you indulge in slander to gain favor? These questions are uncomfortable, but they mark the difference between pretending to be a man and actually becoming one. Success, in its highest sense, is not measured by what you accumulate, but by what sort of person you must become to handle what you have. Another element of character you must cultivate is humility before law. Not the law of men only, but the deeper laws that govern effort and reward, sowing and reaping, cause and effect. The man who tries to look successful believes he can trick these laws. He imagines that he can cheat today and still harvest tomorrow. He believes that he can neglect the foundations and still enjoy the roof. He thinks that if he speaks grandly enough, he can bypass the slow grind of practice and discipline. Life will prove him wrong. The man who becomes successful bows to law. He accepts that culture must precede harvest, that inner change must precede outer gain, that every shortcut cuts something essential out of him. You will also need to untangle your mind from comparison. When you lived for image, almost all your thinking about success was rooted in how you stood beside others. Were you dressed as well as they were? Did you have, as impressive, a title? Were you invited to the same circles? This continual measuring did nothing to improve you. It only fed envy, pride, and discouragement. Now, you must redirect comparison inward. Compare yourself not to your neighbor, but to your own potential and your own past. Ask daily, am I a little wiser than yesterday? A little more disciplined? A little more useful? This is the only competition that matters, because it is the only one you can truly win. As you free yourself from the need to seem ahead of others, an interesting thing happens. Your mind is liberated to cooperate. Instead of seeing every capable person as a threat to your image, you can see them as a source of insight. You can ask them questions, learn from their methods, and even help them without constantly worrying that they will outshine you. This creates alliances, and alliances magnify power. A man obsessed with looking successful isolates himself. A man committed to becoming successful attracts and builds with others who share that commitment. Together they accomplish what no solitary pretender could dream of. You must also be honest about your relationship with money. When you pursued image, money was usually a tool to decorate yourself. You spent it on what could be seen quickly: clothes, showy surroundings, displays meant to suggest prosperity regardless of its reality. If that is how you treat money, you will always be fragile. Real success requires that you treat money as a servant of your purpose. That means three things. You earn it by offering genuine value, you keep a portion of it to create stability, and you invest another portion to increase your capacity. A man who spends every increase in income on appearance is shouting to the world, "I am still pretending." He may fool some for a time, but he fools life not at all. Make it your rule that as your earnings grow, your first thought will not be, "What can I buy to look more successful?" but "What can I do to make this growth secure and to grow myself further?" You may improve your surroundings modestly as your means increase. There is no virtue in needless discomfort. But let your chief excitement be in watching your savings strengthen, your skills deepen, and your opportunities widen, not in watching others envy your purchases. As you adopt these habits, your outward appearance will inevitably change, but in a different way than before. You will no longer be dressing to disguise emptiness. You will be dressing to reflect order. Your clothing will be clean, well kept, and suited to your work, but it will not shout. Your manner will be calm, your speech measured, your promises few and fulfilled. People may not immediately call this success, but they will feel in you something rarer: solidity. In a world full of men who are all show and no structure, solidity is magnetic. There will come a time when opportunities arrive that you once tried to chase by image alone. a partnership offered, a position created, a chance to lead, a door into better circles. In the past, you would have hurled yourself at such doors with little more than borrowed confidence. Now, you will examine them with a different eye. You will ask, does this allow me to use what I have built? Does it align with the value I am prepared to offer? Am I ready in character and skill to bear this responsibility? If the answer is yes, you will step through boldly, knowing that you stand on real ground. If the answer is no, you will have the courage to decline or to delay until you are ready. That restraint is a proof of genuine maturity. And what of recognition? Will you never again enjoy the feeling of being admired? You will, but in a purer way. When you lived for appearance, admiration was your food. You sought it constantly, and yet it never truly satisfied you, because you knew deep down that it was attached to a mask. Now, any respect you receive will be anchored to reality. When someone speaks well of you, you will know that they are seeing the fruits of real labor. Your reliability, your competence, your integrity. Such admiration does not puff you up, it humbles you. It reminds you that others are affected by the man you have chosen to become, and it charges you to maintain and deepen that standard. Perhaps the greatest change of all will occur in how you regard yourself. When you strip away the lies, forsake the glitter, and commit to the slow work of true becoming, you begin to meet a different man in the mirror. He is not yet all he could be, but he is no longer a stranger to his own promises. He may still feel fear, but he moves anyway. He may still carry scars from years of pretense, but he is no longer governed by them. He does not need to inflate his stories, because the truth of his daily life is becoming its own story. That quiet self-respect is the root from which all other forms of success draw nourishment. You must understand, the world does not need one more actor pretending to be prosperous and wise. It needs men who have put their hands to honest work on themselves and on their chosen fields, who can be trusted when the stage lights go out and only the real structure remains. You are capable of being such a man. The distance between what you are now and what you might become is not crossed by costumes, clever words, or borrowed symbols. It is crossed by daily decisions in favor of substance. Each time you choose to become instead of to appear, you move across that distance. There will always be those who seem to advance faster by choosing appearance. For a season, they may have more visible success. Let them. Do not chase them down the path of pretense. Keep your eyes fixed on the road you have chosen. There is a deep satisfaction in knowing that when you finally stand where others can see you, you will not be standing on a hollow platform, but on a foundation you have laid stone by stone. And if, for reasons beyond your control, you are never celebrated as loudly as they are, you will still possess something they rarely do: the knowledge that your life was built, not painted. That is a success no applause can equal. Now you must face the question that has followed you silently through every year of your life. Do you intend to die having played at success or having built it? Not the success that can be counted only in coins or measured only in applause, but the success of a man who has drawn from himself all the strength and usefulness that was placed there. The answer will not be written in your opinions, nor in your dreams, nor in your excuses. It will be written in what you begin to do from this day forward. You cannot undo the years you spent polishing impressions. They are gone. But you can redeem them by refusing to repeat them. A wasted year is tragedy. A repeated wasted year is choice. You have seen the cost of chasing appearance. You have watched money slip away because it was used to decorate instead of to develop. You have felt the hollowness of praise that knows nothing of your actual work. You have endured the quiet contempt of your own conscience when you smiled while empty. Let that be enough. A wise man does not walk twice into the same pit with open eyes. From this point on, you must establish a new law over yourself. I will no longer invest in the image of a man I have not yet become. I will invest in becoming him. That means before you buy anything for the sake of impression, you must ask, will this purchase increase my capacity or only my display? Before you open your mouth to speak of your plans, you must ask, have I done enough to make these words worth saying? Before you seek the attention of others, you must ask, have I earned the right to be heard by the effort I have made in silence? If the answer is no, you hold back. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Respect for the law that success honors builders, not pretenders. To make this real, you must craft a simple, severe code for your days. Not a long list of resolutions that fade within a week, but a short set of non-negotiable practices that, repeated, will harden into your nature. Decide, for example, that every day will contain 3 kinds of labor. Labor on your mind, labor on your craft, and labor on your character. Labor on your mind may be an hour of reading with a pencil in hand, studying the principles of your field or the laws that govern human behavior. Labor on your craft is a focused practice that makes you more capable at the work you have chosen, calculations, writing, designing, building, planning, whatever your calling demands. Labor on your character is the deliberate keeping of your word, the control of your tongue, the correction of small dishonesty, the practice of discipline in small temptations. If each day carries these 3 forms of work, you will have answered, in practice, the question of whether you are still trying to look successful or have begun to become so. For the man who lives for appearances has no patience for unglamorous effort. He will not sit alone with a book, wrestle with a difficult concept, repeat a skill until it becomes precise. He will not quietly correct a fault in his own behavior that no one else has seen. Such inner work offers nothing to display. That is why most avoid it, and that is why those who embrace it sooner or later stand apart. You must also settle how you will respond when no one acknowledges your change. Do not imagine that the world will immediately applaud because you decided to be different. For a long time, perhaps, no one will notice at all. You will rise early, study, practice, work with greater care, restrain your tongue, refuse foolish expenses, and still the old voices around you will speak to you as if you were the same man. They will expect you to laugh at the same jokes, waste the same evenings, chase the same illusions. If your new resolve is weak, this lack of recognition will anger you. You will think, why should I labor if no one sees? That thought reveals you have not yet left the old life. You are still working for appearance, only now you want the appearance of being disciplined and serious. True becoming is not performed for an audience. It is done for its own sake, because you have decided that to remain as you were is intolerable. When discouragement whispers, answer, I am not doing this so they will notice. I am doing this so that when life tests me, I will stand. I am doing this so that I may respect myself. I am doing this because I refuse to waste what was put in me. Once you tie your efforts to such reasons, the absence of applause will no longer have power to turn you back. In time, however, results will begin to show. A problem that once confused you will now yield to your understanding. A task that used to exhaust you will become manageable. A situation that would have made you lose your composure will find you calm. People will come to you for help in areas where you once sought it from others. You may still be in the same position, the same building, the same town, but you will not be the same man. You will feel a weight in your thoughts and decisions that was not there before, a weight that others will sense even if they cannot name it. That is the beginning of genuine success. At this stage, another test appears: the temptation to display prematurely what you are still building. You will feel the urge to speak at length about your new discipline, to hint at the books you are reading, to emphasize the seriousness of your plans. Resist it. The more you talk about what you are doing, the more you spend in words the strength you should be spending in deeds. Let others discover your change by its effects. Let them say, "He has become more reliable," not because you told them so, but because you keep your promises. Let them think, "His judgment has improved," not from hearing you describe your studies, but from seeing the quality of your decisions. Until your results are too strong to deny, live under a rule of modesty. You may, when asked directly, share that you are working to improve yourself, but say no more than needed. Do not use this new path as a new costume. It is easy to turn seriousness itself into an image, to become proud of your restraint, boastful of your simplicity, vain about your lack of vanity. That is only the old disease under a new name. The cure is to keep your attention on the work, not on how the work makes you look. As your ability and character grow, you will find that new opportunities arise that you once tried to imitate from the outside. Where before you tried to look like a leader, now you will be asked to lead. Where before you tried to look prosperous, now you will be entrusted with resources. Where before you tried to look wise, now your counsel will be sought in moments of real consequence. These moments will reveal whether you have truly become different or have only rearranged your pretense. When you are placed in such a position, hold to the principles that brought you there. Remember that you were lifted not by shouting but by service. Continue to ask, "How can I bring value here beyond what is expected? How can I keep my decisions aligned with integrity even under pressure? How can I remain a student even while others call me teacher?" Those questions will keep you from becoming drunk on your own progress. Many men manage through some effort to pass from looking successful to becoming somewhat successful, only to fall back into the old trap at a higher level. They begin to decorate their new position as they once decorated their poverty. They trade the image of the struggling dreamer for the image of the powerful man. Pride returns, and with it, decay. Guard yourself constantly against this. Let every step upward be met with an equal step inward. As your authority grows, deepen your humility. As your income grows, increase your discipline and your generosity. As your influence grows, sharpen your conscience. Let each external gain be matched by internal strengthening, so that no gap opens between what you appear to be and what you are. The wider that gap, the more loudly life will expose it in time. The narrower that gap, the more peacefully you will carry whatever success comes. There is one more aspect of becoming successful you must grasp if you would leave the life of spectacle behind forever, the place of service. When you live for appearance, other people were props in your private theater. You wanted them to admire you, envy you, talk about you. Their needs and struggles mattered only as material to display yourself. This is why you were often lonely, even in company. A man who uses others cannot truly be close to them. As you become a man of substance, your view of others must change entirely. You must begin to see every person you deal with, customer, colleague, worker, family member, not as a mirror in which to admire yourself, but as a soul with its own desires, fears, and burdens. Ask, how can my growing ability make life better for them? How can my work solve their problems, not merely advance my name? When you anchor your ambition in service, you connect yourself to a power greater than vanity. The world may still overlook you at times, but you will no longer feel like an actor begging for applause. You will feel like a builder, adding something of use to the structure of life. This spirit of service does not weaken your success, it secures it. Men of shallow ambition may scoff at the word, thinking it belongs only to saints and martyrs. They do not understand that the most enduring fortunes and the deepest respect flow to those who consistently improve the lives of others. A merchant who serves his customers honestly and well can prosper for decades. A leader who serves his people's true interests can maintain loyalty through storms. A craftsman who serves his clients by delivering more than promised will never lack work. Service is not sentiment, it is strategy grounded in moral law. When you unite service with genuine competence and tested character, you become almost impossible to replace. Others may imitate your style, even copy your methods, but they cannot easily reproduce the combination of your skill, integrity, and care. That combination is your true brand, and it is stamped not on paper or signs, but on the memories of those who have dealt with you. They will speak your name with respect in places you have never been. They will open doors for you that you will not even know you walked through, because they will speak in your favor when you are absent. That is success beyond appearance. And what of the end of such a life? Imagine yourself many years from now, near the close of your days. What picture do you wish to see when you look back? Shelves filled with fine things that meant much to strangers and little to you? Stories of occasions when you seemed important to those who have long forgotten you? Or a different picture? Men and women whose paths were changed because they met you, works left behind that continue to function and bless, a mind still growing, a character still firm, an inner voice that says, I did not waste what I was given. You cannot control every external outcome. There may be trials ahead you cannot foresee. Illness, loss, injustice, these visit the just and the unjust alike. But you can control whether, when such things come, they find you hollow or solid. The man who has spent his life trying to look successful will crumble in the face of severe testing. His props will be knocked from his hands. Without the admiration of others, he will feel he has nothing left. The man who has spent his life becoming successful will bend but not break. He will adjust, suffer, grieve, but he will not be destroyed, because his foundation is not in what he owns or how he appears, but in who he has made himself to be. All of this stands before you now, not as a distant ideal, but as a concrete path. You know enough to begin. You do not need another speech, another sign, another delay. Begin with this simple resolution. From this day forward, I will measure myself by the work I do in private, by the value I create, by the promises I keep, by the discipline I maintain when no one is watching. Appearance will have its place, but it will never again sit on the throne. Each morning, remind yourself, today I choose to build, not to boast. Today I choose to add one more stone to the structure, not one more coat of paint to the shell. Today I choose to become the kind of man success can trust, not merely the kind of man who wants to be seen. Then act in harmony with that declaration. If you do this, something remarkable will happen over the years. Without chasing it, you will one day appear successful. Others will see your stability, your competence, your integrity, and they will call it success. They will ask for your advice, seek your partnership, and point to your life as proof that the old laws still hold. They will not know how many evenings you spent in quiet study, how many habits you broke, how many temptations you resisted, how many times you chose to become instead of to appear. But you will know, and that knowledge will matter more to you than all their admiration, because it will tell you the truth. You stopped trying to look successful and at last became it.